الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. So today we began and we completed the recitation of Surah Al-Hajj, and then we began Surah Al-Mu'minun. Surah Al-Hajj, I just want to spend some moments on the first page. The first page of Surah Al-Hajj, 4 or 5 verses, addresses a trend or an idea that's pretty prevalent today, but it was not so in the past. That's the idea of atheism. Now you have to understand atheism is generally a historical anomaly. Most people believed in God from the beginning of time. Very few people denied the existence of God. And it's only in our times that with the rise of technology and modern science, we have this idea really skyrocketing and people promoting in an organized way. So atheism is interesting when you look at the Quran. The Quran does not spend a lot of time refuting atheism, because the belief in God is self-obvious, it's part of our nature. So the Quran spends a lot of time on many aspects, on clarifying our beliefs in God and clarifying our aqidah and our issues of tawheed. So very little time on the idea of atheism, but there are a few verses that address that. And Surah Al-Hajj, the beginning, are some of those verses which I would like to share with you. Allah says in the beginning, Ya ayyuhan nasu ittaqu rabbakum, inna zalzalata as-sa'ati shay'un 'azim. O human beings, save yourselves from the wrath of your Lord, because the earthquake, a zalzala, of that day is a powerful and terrible thing indeed. So the opening is very dramatic and it's very emotional. It's an emotional appeal. Save yourselves from that day, the earthquake of that day, which will be a terrible thing. And then Allah says, يَوْمَ تَرَوْنَهَا تَذْهَلُ كُلُّ مُرْضِعَةٍ عَمَّا أَرْضَعَتْ وَتَضَعُ كُلُّ ذَاتِ حَمْلٍ حَمْلَهَا وَتَرَى النَّاسَ سُكَارَى وَمَا هُمْ بِسُكَارَى وَلَكِنَّ عَذَابَ اللَّهِ شَدِيدٌ. A terrible scene. Allah says, on that day, you shall see every woman who's breastfeeding a child drop her child. And every woman that's bearing a load, if she's pregnant, she will abort her fetus. No one will be concerned about anything except him or herself. And you will see on that day people will be like drunk, sukara. Sukara means drunk, intoxicated. On that day you will see people intoxicated, but they will not be intoxicated. It's just the events of that day will be so great and the punishment of Allah so severe that they're going to act as if they're intoxicated. So this is a powerful opening of Surah Al-Hajj. And then Allah reminds, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يُجَادِلُ فِي اللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ وَيَتَّبِعُ كُلَّ شَيْطَانٍ مَرِيدٍ. But there are people among human beings that argue about God without any base, without any knowledge. And that's really what atheism is. Atheists don't have any grounding, any base, because when you look at the world around us, it's self-obvious. So people who are atheists, usually because of some complexes of their own, they don't have any solid base. They follow or their desires without any base. That's what بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ means. And then Allah responds, and this is the last verse in this passage. Allah responds, Ya ayyuhan nas, in kuntum fi raybin min al-ba'th. O human being, if you are in doubt about the next life, about your resurrection, this is Allah's answer. Allah says, we created you, فَإِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ مِن نُطْفَةٍ ثُمَّ مِنْ عَلَقَةٍ ثُمَّ مِن مُضْغَةٍ مُخَلَّقَةٍ وَغَيْرِ مُخَلَّقَةٍ لِنُبَيِّنَ لَكُمْ. We created you from a sperm, from the earth first, then from a sperm, and that turns into a little piece of clot that becomes formed and semi-formed, and eventually ثُمَّ نُخْرِجُكُمْ طِفْلًا, and then you are born in this world as a child. So Allah draws our attention to the stages of embryology. There's no science among the sciences that's more miraculous than embryology. I remember when I was in medical school, one of our professors, he wasn't Muslim, but he made an observation that there is no way you can study the field of embryology and not come to the conclusion that there is a God controlling him. Because it's amazing, the process, how everything goes through. And even the verses are so accurate describing those processes. We have no control over that. It's a force of life that goes forward without any input from human beings, and science has no control over it. So embryology is a remarkable thing, and then Allah talks about the stages of life. So embryology, all the different stages described in remarkable detail. And then we bring you out tiflan And then he says, well, before that, وَنُقِرُّ فِي الْأَرْحَامِ مَا نَشَاءُ. You stay in the womb of your mother as much as we will, until أَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى, إِلَى أَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى, until there's a fixed term, which is the 9 months or 37 weeks or whatever. Some people are born premature. Some people go post-term. No one controls that. Even the best doctors can't tell you what day you're going to give birth. They just have some idea, and they tell you can come anytime. So we're at the mercy and the power of God. ثُمَّ نُخْرِجُكُمْ طِفْلًا, then you come out as a child. ثُمَّ لِتَبْلُغُوا أَشُدَّكُمْ, and then you gain maturity. You go through all the stages of youth and adulthood. And then Allah says, وَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يُتَوَفَّى, and some of you, we die before attaining an older age. So some of you die at different stages of life. وَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يُرَدُّ إِلَىٰ أَرْذَلِ الْعُمُرِ لِكَيْ لَا يَعْلَمَ بَعْدَ عِلْمٍ شَيْئًا. And some of you are returned, those who live longer are returned to a feeble old age, where you stop knowing the things you used to know. Like, the stages of dementia, you look at older people, they start forgetting things, they start forgetting the things that they used to know. These are the stages of life. وَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يُرَدُّ إِلَىٰ أَرْذَلِ الْعُمُرِ لِكَيْ لَا يَعْلَمَ مِنْ بَعْدِ عِلْمٍ شَيْئًا. And then Allah draws our attention, وَتَرَى الْأَرْضَ هَامِدَةً, and see how you see the dry earth. And when the dry earth, فَإِذَا أَنْزَلْنَا عَلَيْهَا الْمَاءَ اهْتَزَّتْ وَرَبَتْ وَأَنْبَتَتْ. When the rain comes down on the dry earth, you see the earth moving and trembling and swelling, and then the vegetation starts growing. So all of these are used to describe, to prove to us that there's something in control of the universe. That's Allah Azza wa Jal. There's a greater power. It's all around us. All you have to do is open your eyes. And only people whose eyes are closed, their hearts are closed, are oblivious to that fact. So Allah draws our attention to the stages of embryology and how the earth comes to life after death. And then Allah says, the point of all that, ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْحَقِّ وَأَنَّهُ يُحْيِي الْمَوْتَى وَأَنَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. When you look at all these things, 3 conclusions you have to come to. Allah is the reality, He's the truth, Al-Haq. And He's the one who brings life from death. And then He's powerful over everything in the world. So imagine if Allah created you out of nothing, you were dead before you came to life. What's the big deal about Allah creating you again in the next life? So really you have to use your minds and look all around you. And the end, وَأَنَّ السَّاعَةَ آتِيَةٌ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهَا. The most important thing is, when you come to all these conclusions, you realize that the hour, the day of judgment is going to come for sure. The day of judgment is going to come for sure. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْعَثُ مَنْ فِي الْقُبُورِ. And Allah will raise people from their graves again. So this is the Quranic approach to dealing with some of these contemporary issues like atheism. It's so self-obvious. There are no mathematical formulas you can use or to prove anything. You just have to open people's eyes to the world that they already live in and to all the remarkable miracles that are happening every day of our life. وَصَلَّى اللَّهُ وَسَلَّمَ عَلَى